Hello, and thanks for tuning into the show that goes around the continent to bring you stories near and far. I'm Joke Rogers at Channels Television here in Lagos, and I'm joined by Vincent McCory from the Voice of America in Washington.
Thanks, I'm Vincent McCory at the Voice of America. Happy to be with you again for another edition of Africa 54. Let's start off with the latest from Nigeria. Joke Rogers in Lagos brings you that story.
The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, has applauded the people of Kano State for supporting the Nigerian Army and other security agencies. The General Officer commanding 1 Division of the Nigerian Army, Major General Valentine Okoro, gave the appreciation on behalf of the Chief of Army Staff during the commissioning of the newly renovated Kundila Model Primary School in Taroni, local government area of Kano State. Our correspondent, Nanchin Vincent, reports that the Army remodeled and equipped the school as part of its civil-military cooperation project.
It is a brand new building at the center of Taroni community in Kano metropolis, as the Nigerian Army commissions and hands over the newly renovated and equipped Kundilan Model Primary and Secondary School to the stakeholders of the area.
On behalf of the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General I, Major General Okoro, today have the honor to commission this renovated school project executed by Major General I.S. Ali to the glory of God and service to humanity.
The event had in attendance representatives of the Nigerian Army, the state government, and other stakeholders in the education sector. The renovation exercise included provision of desks and chairs for the classroom, science laboratory, the head teacher's office being furnished, amongst others.
Certain that the projects will contribute to educational needs of the indigents of Tarani and indeed other residents of Kano State. At this junction, permit me to state that the Chief of Army Staff Special Intervention Cooperation Project is aimed at complementing the federal, state, and local government's efforts at improving and providing basic services and amenities.
Of course, like the chairman said, and the representative of the government alone cannot do it. All of us must put our hands together so that we bring everybody along.
The Kano State government is appreciative of this gesture, especially because of its impact on the education system in the state.
This type of project is one of the agenda of His Excellency, the Governor of Kano State. We in Kano here, we believe in educating our children. We believe in educating our children because without education, there will be no good society.
The Nigerian Army is restating its commitment to ensuring the security of the country while adding value to the development of other sectors, noting that education is key and fundamental for a prosperous future. From Kano Commercial City, Nanchin Vincent, Channels Television News.
Well, joining us to discuss this is the Special Advisor to the Kano State Government on Disaster Management, retired Colonel Abubakar Usman. Thank you for joining us today on the program.
Thank you very much.
Right, so what will this kind of remodeling of schools in Kano, by the military do to the educational landscape of Kano State and Nigeria in general?
I was there during the commissioning ceremony, which Major General I.S. Ali, who is the son of the soil of Kundila, he is one of Kano State indigene, our first commander, multi-joint task force in Northeast. He came down to his home place to renovate secondary schools and primary schools to standard, which is a very good initiative by the Major General on behalf of the Chief of Army Staff, which the General Officer commanding one division of the Nigerian Army, Major General Okoro, represented. I was there representing His Excellency, the Governor of Kano State, Abba Kabir Yusuf. No doubt about it, such type of community assistance was meant the relationship between the military and the civilian populace, particularly at local government levels, world levels, where the children of the masses will benefit.
What the military has just done is part of their own social responsibility and, military civil relations. What will this responsibility do to intelligence gathering? How much of, an endearment will this, get from the people as they canvass for help to help the military to be, would it help the military be more proactive instead of being reactive?
Well, what I know in Kano here, because I've been long, Kano government house during Engineer Dr. Rabi Musa Konkoso, the military relationship with civilians, where intelligence gathering is being perfected between the military and even the DSS, training specific youths to gather intelligence information and pass it on. So with this gesture, it will bring closer to the community, where I believe with the present governor of Kano State already is in the pipeline. The police has invited so many youth, thousands of them, I can't remember the number. They are going to train them as police constabulary. They will form part of the proactive measures to gather intelligence information gathering.
Right. If I must say, how do you think this can help, protect school infrastructure, with, people seeing that the military is actually taking part in, educational sector in Kano State, and with the insecurity in the north, how do you think, this gesture can help protect school infrastructure itself?
Yeah, protecting the school infrastructure lies within the Ministry of Education. The community will have vigilantes who are also all over the places. And like I said, with this new development that Commissioner of Police Kano State, which I saw in social media, with a lot of thousands of them that are trained. More so, the governor also has directed training of marshals that will take charge of this project, government project, even public schools.
Right. We must thank you for your time today. The Special Advisor Kano State to the Kano State government on disaster management, retired Colonel Abubakar Usman. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. Happy to hear from you.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. After the break, having fled Sudan due to the civil war, a group of Sudanese artists in Nairobi, Kenya showcase works addressing the trauma of war. Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Vincent Makori in Washington. Due to the eruption of civil war in Sudan, over 1 million people fled to neighboring countries. VOA's Nairobi Bureau Chief Mariama Diallo reports on a group of Sudanese artists who came together recently to deal with the trauma of the war by showcasing their work in the Kenyan capital.
Organizers called the event Resilient Transitions, an opportunity, says curator Rahim Shaddad, to create a space where all the Sudanese artists in exile can come together and meet others like themselves.
One of the main reasons why we did this event was to sort of bring in the Sudanese artists who came here, visual artists who came here due to the war, and connect them in a way or another to the artists whom are already here in Nairobi, who have already created such a support system.
As the director of Downtown Gallery in Khartoum, Shaddad says it's been very difficult.
Most of us have lost a lot. Like for me, I lost the gallery, which hosts over 450 paintings inside.
Event co-organizer Mohamed El Hassan, also known as Mo, was director of 249 Arts and Culture in Sudan. He says the event is a way to introduce the artists to the local market and try to connect them to the world.
What it means for us is basically to support these artists who had to flee the war and come here and restart from scratch. They lost their galleries, they lost their studios, they lost even their ready art that was there. For me, the most significant thing, first of all, is for these artists to be able to produce again.
Abu Bakr Mawaz, also known as Bakri, left Khartoum a few months after the war started. He had to go through Ethiopia before landing in Kenya about a month ago.
It was just tough days, really, really tough days, because you need to sleep outside in the streets for maybe for days, waiting for your bus and waiting for visas and a lot of stuff.
Mawaz describes one painting that depicts a woman in the midst of the chaos of war. He says that through his paintings, he hopes to show the world the reality of what's happening inside Sudan.
She's sitting in here, confused, don't know what to do, and there is gunshots around her.
Tibian Bahari is another Sudanese artist who told us the war has affected her and others in different ways.
My painting has now significantly changed in terms of strength, in terms of contributing, in terms of I am also here as well. I feel angry and I'm not rushing into navigating that emotion of anger. I'm actually more dwelling into the question of what now? What can I do? How can I contribute as a diaspora?
Ibrahim Ahmad, also known as Snoopy, is an award-winning Sudanese filmmaker who, like many, was also recently displaced because of the war.
To me, I've lost almost everything, like totally everything. The only thing that I went out with was my phone. But I've lost everything because one of the reasons was that everyone thought that it will end soon because it happened in Sudan in the past, like when there was a coup or like protest in the corona.
Ahmad says he's been building his filmmaking and video production business for the past 5 years and values the loss of equipment he left behind between $40,000 to $50,000. Mariama Diallo, VOA News, Nairobi.
In 2011, Gianni Toivola became the first man of African descent to become a parliamentarian in Finland. Now 46, the Kenyan Finn, who has endured isolation and discrimination, has retired from politics but still pursues acting and dancing. Mr. Toivola was speaking at a lecture with foreign journalists to educate them on his experiences and Finland's evolution.
It's sometimes even harder.
Finland's first black parliamentarian, Gianni Toivola, was born to a Kenyan father and Finnish mother in the city of Vasa in Finland. He speaks of how the conversation about racist experiences is becoming easier to hold now than back when he was appointed an MP in 2011.
Even though there's not so many black people, that there are black people, brown people, and for the first time we are coming together in one room and we're having discussions with each other. So I think this coming together also supports this, that there's more space to acknowledge one's experiences or to say out loud that I'm experiencing racism and that it is racism or what is racism.
He believes his life in the public space was a boost to his gaining a position in parliament.
I would say that maybe in my story there's a lot of privilege also, in the sense that before I became an MP, I was an actor and a performer. And I also hosted some TV shows, so I was already quite like a public figure in Finland, but more acting and entertainment and nothing to do with politics. But then of course everything is politics. Being a black person in a Finnish TV is already kind of political, and just being yourself is a statement and creates all kinds of reactions from people. So I first started to kind of tell my own personal story, my background and my experiences, and I was just invited more and more to talk on different stages. And all of a sudden I found myself in news broadcasts talking with other politicians and decision makers and ministers. I was still the entertainment person, everybody else was from the political arena. But then I somehow discovered that I'm able to function here as well.
In 2018, Mr. Toivola announced he would not be returning for a third term as an MP. The ex-parliamentarian, who was in the arts before his appointment, says even though more people are opening up to speaking about their experiences, there's still a lot to be done to eliminate the phenomenon of racism and inequality.
Nuclear fusion has excited scientists for decades with its potential to produce abundant carbon-free energy. In the Pacific Northwest state of Washington, one startup is hoping to win the race to develop the technology that finally makes that power available to consumers. From Seattle, Phil Diakin has our story.
Nuclear power today comes from fission, which captures the energy of splitting atoms. But that splitting also causes radioactive byproducts that can be harmful. Fusing those atoms into helium, as happens inside the sun, does not produce harmful byproducts and could produce abundant clean energy. Ben Levitt directs research and development at the U.S. fusion startup Zap Energy.
Fusion really is the next step in humanity's development. The fuel is abundant and safe, carbon-free, and can set us free from the confines of, terrestrial sources of energy.
Fusion power is not commercially viable today because it is harder to fuse atoms than it is to split them. In part, that is because of the extreme energy and heat required to produce that reaction in a controlled environment. Levitt explains Zap Energy's approach passes a high current through a gas plasma of ionized atoms without negatively charged electrons or positively charged ions.
You can think of it as like a lightning bolt. It creates its own magnetic field, and its own magnetic field gives it its own confinement and heats it to fusion conditions.
Zap's progress earned it one of 8 U.S. Department of Energy development grants this year. Part of those funds will be used to build a pilot plant to test fusion technologies, says Energy Department Lead Fusion Coordinator Scott Shue.
We want to find ways to really leverage that great private interest in fusion development and try to shrink the timelines. It really represents we're at a turning point of, okay, if we really focus on the technology, the engineering needs now, the materials needs, I do think it's possible to accelerate it. It may be more a matter of will and investment than of time at this point.
Decades of promising theories about the commercial viability of fusion have still not produced breakthrough technologies, and neither Zap nor the U.S. Energy Department has estimated when consumers might power their homes with the energy of fused atoms. But when that day comes, it will be worth the wait and the effort, says Ahmed Diallo, Advanced Research Projects Agency Energy Program Director at the Department of Energy.
So the day we have fusion energy, we won't have to worry about energy. I mean, that's how I like people to realize that you have abundant energy. You're not really limited to only few power plant. And then we can move on and try to solve other problems. So patience is key. And I want people to really realize it's a holy grail.
Building on government grants, the Fusion Industry Association Trade Group says there is now more than $6 billion in private sector financing for fusion startups. Phil Durking, VOA News, Seattle.
Moroccans have been celebrating across the country as the centuries-old Amazigh New Year becomes a national holiday. A cultural event was held in honor of the New Year at the Royal Institute of Amazigh Culture in Rabat.
Women and men in traditional clothing, dancing, playing musical instruments and singing in the courtyard of the Royal Institute of Amazigh Culture in Rabat, featuring an exhibition of pictures dedicated to Amazigh culture. As celebrations continue, the head of the Tiskiwin band for Amazigh art, Ibrahim Brass, is concerned that traditional dancing is going through a crisis.
In 2017, the Tiskiwin dance was registered in the UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage List. However, this type of art is going through several crises. Most recently, the earthquake that hit Morocco. The natural disaster has forced people to emigrate to the city. And when the people who usually practice this art leave their villages, they stop practicing it, thus seizing the seamless transition of this art form from one generation to another.
Mona Irhal, who took part in the event, adds that locals are happy to celebrate Amazigh New Year as an official holiday.
This is an Amazigh costume from the city of Tafraout. The costume consists of a white dress, red kaftan, and silver jewelry. We're very happy to celebrate this occasion, which is no longer limited to the Amazigh people, but has become a recognized national holiday.
The Amazigh New Year is celebrated on January the 13th. According to historians, the first day of the year and the Amazigh calendar marks the anniversary of the ascent of Libyan king Sheshonq to the throne of Egypt. Earlier on, Morocco's Amazigh community celebrated their New Year unofficially amongst family and friends. But in May 2023, Moroccan King Mohammed VI declared the event to be a national paid holiday.
Packaging producers in Kenya have begun a campaign to collect each day 1,500 tons of empty beverage cartons and turn them into new products. Officials say the cartons account for 30% of the liquid packaging board produced in Kenya. Victoria Munga reports from Thika in Kenya.
At Ramani Recyclers in Kenya's Thika town, workers are turning garbage into valuables. Tons of beverage carton waste from the streets and homes are brought here. It's part of a program to recover liquid packaging board so that it can be made into something different and new.
And the cartons, I found that their usage is even far greater because the boards come in the sizes of 4 by 8. You can straight away erect a house like this.
A 2023 study by Kenya's National Environment Management Authority says the country has made some improvement in solid waste management but has so much work to do. Recyclers like Rugendo believe one reason is lack of public information about recycling. An estimated 4,000 tons of waste, including beverage cartons, are produced daily in the capital, says Priyan Tana, the head of an organization launched by Kenyan manufacturers to address post-consumer waste. To help, authorities began a campaign to recover the waste and find new uses for it.
We are going to be required by law, enforceable law, to segregate at our homes, at our workplaces, in hospitals, in malls, wherever it is. It starts with segregation. That's the first major transformation we're going to see. The second major transformation we're going to see is that as that waste is segregated, we cannot just do the same old, which is dump it back into a truck in a common fashion and have it go to landfill. That's wasted energy and effort.
Garbage collector Joram Wambugu says the initiative could boost his work and create jobs.
If they don't recycle them, how can we earn some money? They weigh this garbage, and after weighing it, each one of us gets their share of the money.
According to UN Habitat, the amount of solid waste generated worldwide is rapidly increasing, but some cities don't have enough reliable data to create effective waste management systems, leading to overflowing dump sites and leakage of waste into the environment.
And when it is finally broken, if ever, you recycle again.
Kenya passed into law the Sustainable Waste Management Act in 2022. It mandates that each county create its own waste management legislation and recycling centers and urge its cities to create waste management facilities. Victoria Amunga, VOA News, Thika, Kenya.
Well, and that's our show for today. You can find all the continent's top news and world news online at voaafrica.com. Check it out. I'm Vincent Makori in Washington. Channels Television has our last word.
We look forward to bringing you another show next week. Do remember that channelstv.com is your source for news and other programming. I'm Joke Rogers. Thanks for watching and goodbye.